It was the opportunity of a lifetime. The minute I went underground, I was kind of captivated. And the one thing I didn't want to screw up here was to try to get the culture right. I thought that's an opportunity we should not squander here.
Warning, explicit content. This material may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
Gotta find a way, gotta be willing to go put in some elbow grease, cause you know nothing that you get in this life comes free. Gotta work all day, gotta pay these bills, ain't no time to waste. Yeah.
Hello miners, hello podcast listeners, welcome into Mining Minds, welcome into South 32 Hermosa. We're sitting at the Subcaller hanging out with my man Dino Brunson.
Yo.
In this shaft too? Is this shaft too?
Main shaft.
Main shaft, I'm sorry. Yeah. And we're sitting with our man, the President of South 32 Hermosa himself, Pat Risner.
Good job.
Sorry, I'm giggling because as soon as he made eye contact, I forgot everything I was supposed
You scared him,
Yeah,
Pat.
you did, Pat. You scared me.
You're fired.
I want to first and foremost thank you for the tour today, man. A lot of knowledge, a lot of, I guess I wasn't expecting you to know, and that's not a bad, not to say anything about you, right? But people maybe in your position don't know the level of detail all the time, and you knew everything, man. So I want to say thank you for that. It was super insightful for me to be able to walk around and listen to you.
Absolutely. I mean, as the president of South 32 Hermosa, I'll echo what Grover says. You don't always get the level of detail from somebody at your level inside the mine, right? The history that you went through with us today, I'm like, man, this guy had to have sat down for 6 months to know about, the 1800s and how it was built up to here. But I can't wait to walk through this story, but I want to echo what Grover said. Thank you so much for having us on site. It's taking your guys' team, some planning to get us up here and some begging for us to get out here. But thank you for granting us the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. Let's start out with little Pat. Where were you born? Where were you raised? Maybe walk us through that. Give us a snapshot of who you were when you were younger.
Yeah, so my story is probably a little bit different than a lot in mining. I'm not one of these multi-generational miners that comes from a mining family. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, primarily eastern Oklahoma, born in Stillwater. My dad was actually overseas in Vietnam in the war. So my dad didn't actually see me till I was about a year old. So
Wow.
My mom was in school at Oklahoma State University at the time. So I was born in Stillwater. Dad came home. Both my parents were teachers, so public school teachers. And my dad was a high school football coach, so I kind of grew up around that. So we moved around the state of Oklahoma a bit with different teaching jobs, but mainly eastern Oklahoma, south of Tulsa, family, mostly teachers, quite a bit in the oil and gas business. If you're in Oklahoma, you're either a teacher or petroleum business or farmer.
So I got a question for you. Did you have to play football for your dad?
I didn't play for him. No, I played against his school once in junior high, though. So that was an interesting.
How'd that
week.
go for you?
It was an interesting week, but no, it's those things. I mean, all of that kind of shapes who you end up and who you end up being and how you approach things later in life. So,
Is there a reason that he didn't coach at the same place that you went to school? It just the way it fell?
Just the way it fell. Yeah, he had different roles, different jobs. But, I grew up from the time I could walk. I was on the sidelines with him or going to school with my mom. So, and my mom was kind of on the vocational education side. So that's why, the work we do here on workforce development, that's kind of what she did most of her career.
Yeah.
She was a vocational educator in the vocational career tech space in Oklahoma for a very long time. They both ended up retiring as superintendents. So they kind of worked their way up from the ground level to leadership roles. And, I watched all of that and observed all of that and learned from them. Even though it's a very different field, it's all about leadership. And so I've taken a lot from both of them that I carry into the roles I've had in the mining industry.
Was there ever any pressure to become a teacher or progress your career to that path?
Oh, not a lot. I mean, I was kind of the traditional kid that was good in math and science. So your school counselors are telling you got to be an engineer. But, I love sports, having grown up around it. My dad was a track coach as well. So I was kind of around sports all the time. So I got a chance to to play sports in college and go to a school where I could get a good engineering degree. And so that was kind of an opportunity that I couldn't pass up at all. I just wasn't sure what kind of engineer. And that's where my story kind of took a turn towards mining.
But so what sport and what school?
So I went to Missouri S&T, the old Missouri School of Mines. When I was there, it was called University of Missouri-Rolla. I don't know. They must change their name every 20 years or so. But one of the mining schools, really good mining school at the time. But I went up there originally thinking I was going to be an electrical engineer. I played football and ran track. So I played football in the fall, ran indoor track in the winter, outdoor track in the spring. So that kind of paid for my school.
You
so that was a
long
big part of it.
distance or sprinter?
I was not a long distance runner. No. I was originally a hurdler. I ended up doing the decathlon. So it was, I loved playing sports, but it also, helped pay for my education. And I got a really good exposure the first couple years there. And that's kind of, there's no mining in my family. Eastern Oklahoma is not a mining hotbed. So I really didn't get exposed to it until college and knew nothing. I mean, I went into it completely blind.
So what was your first experience with the mining industry other than school? You went into the mining school side of things, but what was your first opportunity in the industry?
So I was in electrical engineering my freshman year, but I knew a lot of guys, some guys I played football with that had, they were getting internship jobs in underground coal mines in Southern Illinois, and sounded interesting. I didn't know anything about it. I knew they were making pretty good money. So I said, I want to try that. So I got a job working at the Galatia mine, which was an underground longwall mine outside of Harrisburg in Southern Illinois. Kerr McGee operated it at the time. Went into it, had no idea what I was getting into. But the minute I went underground and saw like the scale of it, the machinery, the technology, just the technical acumen to do that underground and produce minerals and resources the way in which they did, I was kind of captivated and worked the whole summer, went back and changed to mining engineering after after that first summer. Ended up working underground every year when I was in college, and then went from there. But so it was just fell into it just from some people I knew, and it got in my blood immediately when I went underground.
Well, how did that go with mom and dad, the conversation? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I've talked about this a few times actually in speaking events. I think my parents, they didn't know there was such a thing as a mining engineer. So that had to start with that. But I gave my parents a tour one summer, I think in one of my internships, and I think they got it because they thought it was really cool as well. And so, they were just happy that I was happy. And it's just, I think we all get it and understand.
Yeah.
It gets in your blood pretty quickly, especially, I was fascinated when I worked underground on longwalls, the teamwork. So having a sports background and growing up watching my dad lead teams and, establish culture in teams and how they support one another. I saw a lot of parallels to what I saw in an underground crew and how they support each other, help each other be successful. It's about a team goal. Everybody has their part. It's just like a sports team. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what appealed to me really early on and why I was drawn to it so quickly.
Well, I think, we spent a little bit of time at the mining games, and we ran into quite a few people that, this was their first experience, or, we're talking to companies that are looking for experience. And I think instead of experience, in your case, in a lot of people's cases, it's just the exposure. If we can get the exposure, that's going to create the experience.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed. I think if you take people to a mine, whether it's a modern mine or not, I think they just have no idea what goes on, what kind of technology we use, the opportunities, and not just as mining engineers, but across all the disciplines and the functions that support the mine. And I think there's a lack of understanding at the tremendous opportunities that are there. So it absolutely is all about exposure and helping everybody see the full breadth of everything we do.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, we always say it on here, is once you get muck in your boots, it's hard to get it out.
Yeah.
You're kind of committed. But so did you do all coal in college? Was it all coal? Or?
I did at the time. The coal mines were thriving in the Midwest, particularly in Southern Illinois. So there was a lot of opportunity, and so I thought I was going to go that route. I actually had a job with Consol, one of the U.S. coal companies who I'd worked with, and was all set to go do that. My younger brother followed me to Rolla
Heck yeah.
into mining as well. So now we got 2 mining engineers
Yeah,
after
buddy.
after no history at all. So. But yeah, I was actually all set to go work underground back east, and BHP came recruiting at Rolla right towards the end of the semester. I'd actually already made up my mind. They came recruiting mining engineers to go work in their business in New Mexico, and I'd never been to New Mexico, so I just went on an interview trip to go see what New Mexico looked like.
Sure.
And when I got out there, like the culture was very different. The way in which they worked was very different. The way they valued engineering and technical disciplines and things like that. You know, just the feel, smell of the place when you walked in was quite different, and it was very appealing to me. So I changed my mind and went to work for them instead. And that sort of opened up also a global career. That was the other thing that attracted me about mining and BHP in particular, is it's a global industry, and the opportunity to go other places in the world became very appealing too.
Oh yeah. Well, so what did you start out doing there for them?
I was originally just like a production engineer, so working in a small engineering team that did all the short range planning for the production. But the thing that, there's a few moments in my career I point to that were pretty pivotal. One, back in those days, BHP really emphasized engineers getting out in the field really early in their career. So I did some supervisory roles with frontline crews pretty early. It was a mine that was on or adjacent to the Navajo Nation up in the Four Corners area. So working out in the field almost immediately right out of school with crews. And I've told this story a lot. That's, if I had to point out sort of 2 or 3 pivotal moments in my career where I learned the most, it was not doing engineering right away and going straight to the field and working with teams of people who'd worked at that mine longer than I'd been alive. And making mistakes and learning from that. And, that stuck with me. I think everybody should do that at some point, because that really, I still think about things from those experiences that helped me.
Well, I'd like to ask, maybe dive into the little bit of the cultural side of things, as far as you said you were working with different native groups in the Four Corners up there, and coming from Oklahoma, brand new into the mining industry. What was your original thought around that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think learning a lot about the intersection of the mining industry and tribal nations and their culture, and where they've historically had historic affiliation and things like that. I hadn't thought about it a lot in Oklahoma because we didn't really have an industry, but I grew up around a lot of Native American communities, and so seeing that for the first time when I worked up in New Mexico in the Four Corners community, you see that there's some natural tension there, but you also see that's where I sort of got that first glimpse of the great things that mining can do for people and communities. Very poor community, high unemployment, low wages. And we'd have 3 generations of Navajo mining people from one family in the workforce at a time, and seeing how it took people that lived in a pretty impoverished community, gave them resources to access education that then had this generational effect on families in terms of giving them opportunities and improving their lives, whether it was in mining or not. Like, that was really impactful at a young age as well. And, not having seen that intersection like that before, that has also stuck with me in terms of the good it can do, but also how we have to respect the culture and think about the kinds of things we do to not just coexist, but actually be, very respectful and create shared value in a different way for tribal communities, which are a very different kind of stakeholder.
Yeah, I would say creating opportunity. I mean, from an industry that has a lot to share, bringing that new into a community. I don't think it was new when you got there at this point in your story, but for the new mines that are going up now, it's really about communication and exposure. I think if you can get that early on, in those relationships, it's going to pay dividends in the end.
Yeah, we've tried to do a lot of things different at Hermosa, and this is one of the ones I talk about almost every time we tell the story, because I do think we've got a little bit of a checkered history in how the mining industry has engaged and built relationships with tribes. I think we've waited, typically the industry, we wait far too long until we get to formal permitting processes where you're required to do formal government to government consultations. And we don't engage and build trust and relationships early enough at a point in which the project can still be shaped and changed. And so, your tribal stakeholders don't feel like they've had the opportunity to have input to shape and change the project. And so we started really early, like 4 years before we ever submitted a permitting application that would have even triggered anything like this requirement, before the pre-feasibility study, when you can still have some flexibility to change what you're doing and change the configuration of the project, is start engaging with up to 12 different tribes, build relationships, build trust, find opportunities to work together, and listen and understand their cultural connection to the land and where we are, and understand how we can modify and change the project to make it more appealing to a stakeholder like that. So that's been a big part of what we've tried to do differently.
I can't believe it. So early in your career, we're right at the beginning of it, but you've gotten to the face. You've learned the value of getting out there and putting in some work with those guys to learn as a young engineer. And you've also got the exposure to realize, hey, we need to start relationship building and have communications with our stakeholders. And I know we're talking about tribal members right now, but those are two impactful things early in your career that I imagine it has helped you throughout your entire career to hold on to those, to harness those as you moved along. Sponsoring this episode of the podcast is Safety First Training and Consulting. Headquartered here in Elko, Nevada, but mobile enough to reach you anywhere throughout the United States. These guys can cover it all, from MSHA approved and new miner training, annual refresher courses for both surface and underground. They can help support with health testing like spirometry, respirator fit tests. They even offer courses like fall protection. So head on over to their website at safetyfirstelco.com. Check them out. Their mission is to help your crew adopt an ownership mindset. Not just do the training, but live the training safely every shift. With top-notch instructors and hands-on classes, Safety First Training and Consulting makes sure you're not just compliant, you're confident. Give these guys a visit at safetyfirstelco.com.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't an engineer for very long, so I probably wouldn't be very good at it if you made me do it again today.
You're not going to do the mine plan here?
No, they wouldn't dare ask me to do that. But, I think it is really important, though, especially if you aspire to a leadership role, to understand the importance of relationships, whether it's relationships with the people at the front line that do the work that, we're in service to them to help them be safe and successful, and understanding really early on what that looks like. And frankly, what it doesn't look like good and bad, but also how that translates to the external world. I mean, back in those days, the concept of like a social license to operate that we talk about today, that's as essential as getting the actual permits, that wasn't a concept back then, but it was really apparent, like it was stark, having started in a community like that had such significant social needs, that was so dependent on those jobs. That became very apparent. And then understanding that you have to have the right kinds of relationships to make that successful. I felt very fortunate to learn that early in my career, because a lot of folks don't get that opportunity.
Not at all. So you said you weren't an engineer for long. What does that mean? Walk us through this.
Well, I mean, I did a production engineering, short range planning role for probably less than 2 years, then went to the field, and then came back and did a little bit more, and then got an opportunity actually to go overseas, which was one of the reasons I went to BHP. I went to one of their big mines in Queensland and started getting into some other things. So I got into major capital projects, and we did a major brownfield project back in those days. So again, we got a big greenfield project going on here, so I got some good exposure to that early on. And I also had the environmental function under me. I was in like a tech services manager role. Yeah. So it was my first
old were you
leadership.
at this point?
26, yeah.
Still young.
27. So first time leading a group in a different culture in central Queensland, living in a very remote mining community, I was looking after engineering, but I also ended up getting the environmental team, which was kind of starting to be involved in some things that are different. But we also executed a major brownfield expansion project. So when people ask me about career advice, I don't, I think everybody has their own motivations, but the one thing I always say is that I was very fortunate to start to get breadth of experience in my career early on. And if I look back now, that was one of the most important things. So I was really thankful for that opportunity.
Well, I will say that not everybody gets an opportunity to go overseas at 26 years old, fresh out of school, first generation miner. There was something special about you. I don't know. Did you finish top of your class? I mean, there was something there, or somebody,
right place at the right time,
or a mentor that recognized something in you that went, we're going to set this guy up because he can handle it.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. The part of BHP I was in at the time was part of their business development organization, was part of the group we were in at the time. And so they would draw a lot of people and talent for all the global overseas operations. That's actually why I went there, because I thought I might have an opportunity to do something internationally quickly. And so all of my mentors, they did a great job of really developing people, getting the right experiences really quickly. And so all of my mentors had been overseas and back a few times. And so I just happened to be working with a group of people that valued that experience and kind of brought me along and helped me learn what I needed to learn, and then gave me an early opportunity. So it really was a lot about just choosing to be in the right place at the right time and embracing some different kinds of experiences along the way.
But also having to take that opportunity, because a lot of guys maybe wouldn't have. They don't want to leave home. They don't want to change what they're doing. You left Oklahoma and said, hey, I'm here to see what's out there, right?
Well, sometimes, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a community, which is a lot of small communities where a lot of people don't leave. And so, I had this strong desire to go see the world and go other places. I wouldn't trade anything for where I grew up. It's
Sure.
part of who I am. There's a lot of things I learned there that I would be a different person. So proud of that. Tell people all the time where I'm from, but I did want, it kind of did motivate me to get out and see the world. And so, I think the attraction for me was just seeing different places and learning different cultures. Having my first leadership role overseas was a bit of a challenge.
Sure.
And again, I did some things that weren't great early on. You learn from those, but that's what kind of makes you who you are later. And so that was a unique opportunity to have a go at leadership in a really different culture where pretty quickly you would learn you have to adapt and do some things differently.
So where's your brother at this point in the story?
So let's see. My brother was about 5 years younger than me, so he was just getting out of Rolla at the time. He initially, I think, went to work for Kiewit.
Okay.
Worked for them for a while. He worked for Peabody for 18 years. He did some pipeline work for a while, so stepped out of mining for a while. He went back and taught and coached football for a while. So,
oh, heck yeah.
Kind of like my dad. But now he's the vice president of processing for Compass Minerals, a salt company based in Kansas City. He's in Salt Lake.
Very cool. Well, continue to walk us through your, man. I mean, you've been with the company at 26 years old now, and you keep bouncing around. Did you stay there for a long time? Did you?
Stayed over there for about 4 years. My oldest daughter was born in Queensland, so that was interesting. Had a first child in a different country. So did a lot of traveling, but yeah, that was a great experience. The other thing I would say about that experience is that mine was struggling. And so part of it is the GM was brought in, and some of us were brought in to kind of create some change. It was up for potential divestment from BHP at the time because of the commodity. It had a lot of thermal coal, but also just competitiveness. And so we went through a really significant business transformation. And so that experience was really important. So how do we had to improve safety performance was poor. How do we cut costs? And so a lot of cultural work to try to make that a more viable and safer operation. So that was really good work. But it was a long ways from home to have a small child. My family was kind of missing her life. So was looking for an opportunity to come back to the U.S. and came back and was approached about leading the environmental function. And this is where things start to really go sideways if I'm a mining engineer. Now you're understanding why I really was only a mining engineer for a few years. And so part of the BHP's operations there in the area had struggled a little bit. It was on tribal land, so it was direct federal oversight, not state oversight from an environmental regulatory standpoint, which is a real challenge. Everything you do is a federal action. And so had some compliance challenges. We're having some challenges getting things permitted, approvals, relationships. So really strong technical team, but they needed leadership. And they said, we want someone to go in there that understands the mine and mining and just provide leadership. And so it was the thing that was great about this is the first time I'd led in an area where I had zero subject matter expertise.
So your leadership skills had to be on point.
So they said, we just want you to lead, like help the team be successful and lead. And that in of itself was a great learning opportunity about, leadership is not the same as being the one doing the work. And leadership is a different skill than the subject matter expertise that the people have doing the work. And I had to really focus on just leading and helping the team.
So what did that look like for you? I mean, what actions were you taking at that point to show that to the site? Because it's one thing to be able to talk about it and have SOPs, but to really drive a successful program, it takes certain action.
Well, a lot of it was back to relationships. So both the mine and the team didn't have great relationships with the federal regulator. So a big part of it was get to more trustful, positive working relationships with the regulator. A lot more of doing what you say you will do and following through. And then the second piece was, these environmental teams, they get stuck between the regulator and the people in the field. So my job was to help them be better at relationships both directions. So how do we improve trust and relationships with the regulator? How do we improve trust and relationships with the field where we depend on people to help us get things done and be successful? So I could do that. I didn't need to know anything about soil surveys or, reclamation success standards, even though I learned all that. And again, sitting here today, the amount of environment and permitting work that goes into a project like Hermosa, that was a seminal, very important experience for me because I draw on the experience from being in that role almost every day in this role. And so it was a lot of relationships with regulators and in the field, improving our compliance performance. We got some really big permit approvals during that time frame that had been pending for years. And again, a lot of it was back to relationships. Some of those things I sort of started learning a lot more about early on. So
Well, it sounded like you're good with people right out of the gate, but environmental is even different because it's so long range. It's so out there for years, or can be, right? And so you don't even get to see the fruits of your labor a lot of times. So building those relationships in that environment in itself is difficult because how do you trust when you want to see action? My action doesn't come for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more years sometimes.
Yeah.
So
got to find a way to get some quick wins and wins on the board. So the regulator needs to see really early on that you can be trusted, that you're going to do what you say you were going to do, that you go above and beyond, that they were heard. And so I did a lot of listening about history for a long time in the start of that role to understand where we come from and where we needed to go. So,
but you were leading the group, right? I mean, it wasn't like you were leading the charge, but you had a team underneath you that you had to have them believe in the same values system that you believe in.
Yeah, I mean, so this was interesting. There's a team of environmental scientists, and they were all super capable, like extremely, from a technical standpoint, high caliber team. I didn't need to go out and find the experts, and but I think they were a bit miffed that a mining engineer was coming in to lead the group.
To show them how to do it.
I do remember one guy coming in saying, "Welcome to the group," but I don't think a mining engineer should be leading the team. So that was off to a good start.
Yeah.
But he and I ended up working really well together as time went on, and I recognized his strengths, and he recognized how I could help him. So yeah, even trust within the team, and so really about asking the right questions, but also about helping them move beyond their really strong technical expertise. But how do you also add the people side and the people strategy to that too?
Well, I think it's pretty funny, but I think it's also crazy that just a job title can put a perception out in front of you before somebody gets to know you as an individual, right?
Yeah.
To where it sounds like once you got to know the person, it's like, hey, I'm just a person just like you are. We're here to do the same job.
Right back to when I went to the field early on, like all you can do is learn as much as you can about every individual personally, help them learn more about you and who you are. And then you can start building some trust and go from there. It's no different whether it's with a bunch of high caliber environmental scientists or, operators that have been in the field for 30 or 40 years. It's all about that relationships and trust.
Yeah. It's almost like, it's pretty simple what we do, but we get in our way quite a bit.
So I do want to kind of maybe catch us up to your last role at BHP. I know we were short on time, so I want to maybe walk through quickly the rest of your mining journey, and then let's talk about Hermosa for the next, 15, 20 minutes, half hour.
Yeah, I mean, I did various other roles between now and then. I ended up leading BHP's coal business in the U.S. I was the president until we divested it, and then went and led the HSE function, health, safety, environment function globally in BHP for a few years. I went back to Australia for 4 years in Melbourne and was the group HSE officer. So essentially worked with our asset presidents and general managers globally on improving, obviously, our health and safety and also environmental performance across the entirety of, BHP, 80 odd thousand employees in many different countries. So again, more learning experiences. But in late 2018, South32 acquired the Hermosa project, and South32 had been part of BHP up to 2015. So I knew quite a few of the people that worked in South32 from my BHP days. I ended up being with BHP over 25 years. And so when they bought it, I was approached about coming to lead this early stage, what was still an exploration project at the time, but was on the cusp of potential development back in Arizona. And again, had been back in Australia for 4 or 5 years. I got 2 more kids at this point, and they were going to school in Melbourne and wanted to come home again. And it was the opportunity of a lifetime because Greenfield project, the opportunity to start with a blank sheet of paper and apply everything you've learned over your career at that point, not create change and look for ways to improve, but try to get it right from the start was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So I came in 2019, about 8 or 9 months after they acquired the project, and helped get things started.
Sponsoring this episode of the podcast, our good business parts at Heavy Metal Equipment and Rentals. When the ground is tough and the clock is ticking, you need more than just equipment. You need a partner who lives and breathes heavy-duty performance. That's Heavy Metal Equipment and Rentals. From dozers and haul trucks to loaders and excavators, HME has the equipment to keep your operation charging forward. But it's not just about the iron, it's about the commitment to safety, reliability, and to getting the right machine at the right time. That's why they offer both short-term rentals for immediate jobs and long-term rentals to preserve capital and manage your budget. And if renting isn't the answer, they've got you covered with equipment sales, financing, fleet appraisals, and big job repair contracts. So when your project demands a partner, precision, and relentless support, contact the team at Heavy Metal Equipment and Rentals. Click the links on the episode notes and find out more.
What was it like going from 80,000 employees from a health, safety, and environmental perspective to this project?
Well, it was interesting because in that it was a real shift of gears, because in that health, safety, and environment role, you're mainly working through influence in this massive global organization. I'm working with a lot of my old colleagues in the asset president ranks and listening to them and trying to support them and be a service provider to help them be successful. They own it. To now coming here with maybe 20 or 30 people from the previous owner of the project, and no pre-feasibility studies or anything done, and kind of starting from scratch. And so 2 vastly different roles. So it took a real mindset shift, to being a lot more creative and thinking about what was possible, and being back on the side of, getting things done rather than being in kind of a customer service mindset like you are when you're leading a function where you're trying to help line leaders be successful. So that was a real shift in gears, but I loved it. Like, it was just such a great opportunity. It was an easy transition to make.
How'd that translate how'd that translate into the life with your kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting back in home country and closer to family was important. But the time in Melbourne and in Australia for them was great because they experienced different culture. I think lots of kids need to get that opportunity. But I wanted them to go to high school here anyway, and they were kind of starting middle school at the time. So it was good to get them back. But also, it's always good, your kids thrive when they see you thriving and excited and happy. And so it was a great new start for me that I'm sure, helped them as well.
I know earlier, the reason I wanted to ask the question was earlier you'd mentioned that you traveled quite a bit in that role. And I would imagine when you came here to Arizona, it gave you a little bit more time.
Yeah, it was that functional role in BHP. I was traveling a lot, and the opportunity to be home. I still travel a lot, but I'm home most nights now, and get them closer to family and be around. Certainly, I think it doesn't matter. I don't care what people say. It doesn't matter what level you're at. That being right is important for you to be successful professionally. So.
100%.
As a first-generation miner, though, you did exactly what our dad did, and many other dads did, is take your kids and move them around to mine site to mine site. So I just had to joke or note that a little bit.
Trying to see how tough your kids are.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, it was one of the best things I've ever experienced was bouncing around, but you don't realize it at the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but I guess I want to walk through the project a little bit. What did you think when you first got here? And did you go, hey, I got a challenge on my hand or an opportunity on my hand? What does that look like for you walking into this?
It was a little bit daunting, because you're starting from nothing, and but you could see the potential, and the wheels start turning really quickly about what's possible, and the ambition, and the drive start to go. I think my attention probably turned immediately to people again. Like, if we're going to do this and get it right from the start, we've got to go find the right people. And I think more than anything, and the team will probably tell you this even today, it's like the one thing I didn't want to screw up here was to try to get the culture right from the start. Like, it doesn't matter what role you're in leadership wise, you spend so much time trying to get the culture right. And so I thought that's an opportunity we should not squander here. And, we still have our day-to-day challenges, but that was a really big focus early on. We wanted to get into steady work quickly and try to get things moving along. So how do we get the right people on the team and on the bus, and particularly the right leaders, so we can start laying the groundwork for the kind of culture we want long-term that hopefully someone doesn't have to come in and do a transformation on later. It's
always harder to do, right?
We get it right. Yeah.
Well, I would say, gosh, it's almost like a marriage, right? It's like happy wife, happy life, is what they say. But honestly, like, your crews and the people on site, they know if your management team's unhappy or not, and they don't have to say a word. It's visible, you can feel it. But talking to the guys today, the people that you have, Skyley included, you can see the energy around the project. You can see that translating into your contractors around site, and honestly, it's a breath of fresh air to be able to come and take a tour of the site and see that.
Sponsoring this episode of the podcast, our good friend Jimmy Ewing and Motor Mission Machine and Radiator. When your machine overheats, there's no downtime to waste, especially in mining. That's why Mining Minds recommends Motor Mission Machine and Radiator, your go-to experts in industrial and heavy equipment radiator repair, engine and cylinder head rebuilding, and precision machine shop work. Founded in 1949 and serving the western United States for over 50 years, Motor Mission handles it all. Radiators and coolers from passenger vehicles to massive mining shovels, and full machine shop services like honing, line boring, and crankshaft balancing. They'll pick it up, tear it down, clean it right, and test it on custom stands before it leaves their shop. The bottom line is, when you talk in best in class, that's Motor Mission Machine and Radiator. Big or small, they can do them all.
Yeah, a lot of the people that have come here have come for the unique opportunity that is here. You don't get the chance to do the same thing I saw, the opportunity to apply everything you've learned. And so, we haven't got it right every time, but I think that's given us the opportunity to go out and find the right people and be selective about the kind of leaders we want, and start training and developing leaders early on with the kind of behaviors we want to establish and to be, part of who Hermosa is and what being at Hermosa is like, and have that felt. We very deliberately want it to be different in the mine we design. We talk about every aspect of that, but also different in the look and feel of the place and the culture when people come in here. And so that all started with getting the right people in place. We've been very fortunate. That's the other thing. These projects are tough. You have ups and downs, but you love the team. I love the team we've put together. I like working with these people every day, and that's what kind of gets you through.
Well, in these greenfield projects like this too, the support systems around the mine, your vendors, your OEMs, I mean, you have an opportunity to enhance and help them with their business, with the culture that you guys are bringing on site, because you want that from them as well, right? I mean, you want one singular message going out to the community that this is the place to be.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. We've been very deliberate as well about making sure both the contractors and the leaders, the individuals in the contracting companies that we work with, share a lot of that vision. So I'd say, our major contractors here are great with the community, and that was really important to us. They go out and do lots of proactive things in the community, just like we do. They take social license to operate serious. They take the behaviors of their teams in the community serious. That's critical. It all starts with safety, though. We talk about our safety guarantee. This is the other thing that drew me to South 32. We all have our safety slogans, but the one here is quite provocative and really important, and deliberately so. We talk about we all guarantee everyone goes home safe and well, and we all, so it's everybody and it's guarantee. And that word's a bit provocative, in the mining industry, whether you actually believe that's possible or not. But it's been really important that our contractors have been aligned around the guarantee as well, and that their leaders are aligned just like ours are. And so we've, again, just like the South 32 team, I think are fortunate to have the right contracting partners that share that value around the guarantee, but also share our value around social license, how we work with community, and around behaviors and how people show up and behave in the workplace.
Well, it's a power word, right? It's not a powerless word. We're going to try to do this. We want to do this. No, we're going to guarantee is a powerful word. And by outwardly expressing that, that's your goal. That's where you're going to. It's not, I guess that's the difference sometimes in the cultures and the mentalities is we are going to do this versus we want to do this, right?
Well, the other thing we say is if someone's uncomfortable and saying, I actually don't think I can, and that actually is the case in many instances in our industry, we say that's okay. Yeah. That actually is what we want, because then we want to have a conversation about, okay, what would it take to guarantee?
Absolutely.
And that's the conversation we need to have anyway.
From my perspective, I've seen this, from an individual in the Iron Range. Today I've seen it big time on approachability. If somebody at your level is not approachable, I mean, we walked out there today and you're talking to the safety guy, you're talking to the foreman, if you're not approachable to those guys, what is that saying? And it's like, it goes back to the people, like you originally stated, to where if they know that you are living this and breathing this and they can approach you about anything, it's possible.
Yeah, that's a big part of the culture. And so when I went back to my point earlier about selecting the kind of leaders we want here, it has to be people that engage, that listen, that seek to understand. And part of that is so that we have the safe to speak up culture, because we aren't going to deliver on a guarantee if someone's not comfortable saying, you know what, I can't guarantee, but if we did this, this, and this, we could. And the only way they're going to do that is if we've got a set of leaders that make it safe to say that and do that, and stop work if they can't guarantee, and recognize and reward people when they do it well.
Well, when you start with this culture and you get to be creative, the next step when it comes into production, what's going to happen is your frontline leaders are going to feel empowered to be able to stand up and talk about the plan and what's in front of them. Can I accomplish it? If I can't, why not? Let's make that turn.
Yeah, so I think that's more difficult in a construction setting where you're working with contractors, but that's where kind of the expectations, the behaviors and values alignment, not only with the contractor, but it all comes down to who the individual leaders are. It doesn't matter, whether it's Redpath or Sunt or South 32 patch on the shirt. It really comes down to the individuals and their behaviors and how they show up. That either makes people willing to do that or not. And going back to what we said earlier too, about the personal relationships you build, it's about trust, right? right back to where we started.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: you've got a lot of the right people. I don't know everybody, but the people that I have got to meet, they're safety first type mentality, but they're also ingenuitive. You know, they're thinking outside the box. You got a lot of creativity of people going, yeah, we've done it like this before, but can we do it like this before? How do we do it like this?
Well, and I would say the years of expertise that was sitting across from us, I mean, to have that on one site, you know, focused, you know, around a startup, it's pretty rare.
With all of those guys building relationships, being creative, you know, that is huge to have. And I know we didn't get to meet everybody, but that's a core group of individuals that you get to work with. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a great team, and a team that's been through lots of ups and downs, as you do in these projects. You have to expect it and know that's what you signed up for. But to some extent, that's the other part that makes it a lot of fun, is how dynamic these projects are. I like my day every day is completely different. No one day is the same, and that's a big part of why I love it too. So,
Well, I'm sure like every day when we were driving around earlier, it's like the site is changing every day too, you know, and it's just pretty neat to see how all these things are correlating together.
I wanted to ask from because we've talked about a lot outside of the podcast, but maybe highlight some things that you guys done that are unique here, or that we'll be doing that's going to be unique. I want to have you highlight some of those, because I really think that I know a couple of them, but I like it.
I think so. I talked about the tribal element earlier on engaging in relationships. I won't go through that again, but I think in terms of the development itself, we thought really early on about how do we address some of the traditional concerns that societies and communities have with mines. And so we talked about designing a small surface footprint, so something that has less impact on surface environmental resources, biodiversity, cultural resources. And so part of it was how do we minimize our disturbance. And so we will have an underground mining method with cemented paste backfill, with dry stack tailings, with an all Jameson cell concentrator that requires a lot less space. And so you sort of start to converge a lot of these different approaches and technologies, and basically all of the primary mining infrastructure, initial tailings, concentrator, paste plant, tailings plant, all of that will be contained to about 200 acres. And in up to 70 years of mining will only disturb 750 acres. To kind of put that into context, the big open pit mines are 10, 20, even as big as 40,000 acres. And so that's a real game changer. The other one is water. And that's probably the biggest concern and issue in communities and society today. We'll use 90% less water. Your typical base metal mines will use between 60 to 20 gallons of water for every pound of metal they produce. We'll use 0.5. So filtered tailings, where we recycle and reuse about 90% of the water. So those are a couple, all battery electric fleets underground by the time we hit full production, and working with our utility partner to find opportunities to power the mine with renewable energy. So, a number of things. It's really about bringing different approaches. Not everything is earth-shattering and cutting-edge technology, but bringing different approaches together all at one site for the first time to get a much better outcome. Last thing I'll say is automation and technology. So all of our primary production processes underground, autonomous, semi-autonomous, remotely operated. We're building what we call Centro, a remote operating center in Nogales, where we will essentially run the process plant in the underground. And the opportunity that creates for a local workforce, and to commit to at least 80% of our permanent workforce being from the community, is another really vital part of that social license. And how we're using technology and Centro to accomplish that is another really important part of it.
Well, you got the technology out here. I know we talked about potentially even scanning and checking to see what kind of ore you have coming, or if it's ore waste. But you also have an opportunity to help the globe out, and help the country out, rather, I should say, by providing resources and minerals that nobody else can provide right now, local or domestically.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's really unique here. This is really a critical minerals district that we're developing. So we'll produce up to 5 critical minerals off the U.S. government's critical minerals list. So it's primarily zinc and manganese deposit, one of the largest undeveloped zinc deposits in the world. and a battery grade manganese deposit that has the scale to meet domestic demand. The importance of that is 97+% of the battery grade manganese in the world comes from China. So this is an opportunity to really reduce national security risk around that vertically integrated mined and processed domestically. On the zinc side, really, we only produce about 6% of the zinc in the world. Almost all of it or most of it comes from Red Dog up in Alaska, which is kind of getting late in life. We see a 4 million ton gap between zinc supply and demand by the early 2030s. To put that into context, you'd have to develop 3 Hermosas every year between now and then to close that gap. And this is the only deposit of this scale, zinc deposit, discovered globally in the last 10 to 15 years. So there's going to be scarcity and potentially increasing foreign reliance, which makes developing the zinc deposit, as you've seen here today, really critically important for country, not just for the local community and the company.
Well, to do it in a footprint that is very, very, I guess, economically or well thought out, right? You guys have put time and energy to make sure you're only using what you need to use. But on top of that, with I say technologies, but that's not to do it as dynamically as you guys are doing it with all these little, I don't say little, but dry stacking and and your offsite remote, your battery. There's so much that's going into it. Kudos to you guys, man. You guys have an awesome project that I'm looking forward to kind of watching and seeing how this progresses. I hope I get another invite out here one of these days. So, but Dino, I know we got to get out of here, man. So
man, just a very, very, very big thank you to you and your team for having us out, letting us tour the site, or you personally touring us around the site. I know we've seen you and met you a couple times, but to sit down and hear your story, man, how inspirational. First generation miner, you know, straight into mining. And then if you have the, I will say this to the audience, if you have the get up and go and you want opportunity put out in front of you, this is a story here that proves it over and over again that the opportunities are there.
Yeah. I would say this too before we get out of here. Usually a question. How did you propose to your wife?
I don't know if I even remember now.
He doesn't even know if you did.
I always ask, but a good place. The other last question I had was, are any of your kids gonna go into mining?
So I have a daughter that's 20, she'll be 28 next weekend. She's already into the psychological field, so she's been working in the mental health field, which, funny enough, we did a lot of mental health work when I was in the BHP role on the health side of HSC, so really proud of what she's done. A really important job that a lot of people won't do, so proud of her.
And we need it in the mining industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we talk a lot about mental health stuff with her. She's so she's doing that up in Phoenix. But then I have twin boys that'll be 18 next month. So they're graduating from high school. They're going to go into engineering at the University of Arizona, but don't know what type yet. So that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Following Dad's footsteps for sure.
Well, there's opportunity out there for him, man, and you paved a hell of a way for sure.
Yeah. I want to say thank you again for having us here, but coming on and sharing your time. Sorry, I know you're probably running late, but thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate you guys coming out. I think, what you guys do, we talked at the start about the importance of exposure and people hearing more about the industry. So these kinds of things and what you do is really important for us to get the word out there and things for people to see, to actually get that exposure and understand more about what we really do. So thanks for doing what you do and for coming out and spending the day with us.
Absolutely. You guys out there listening, check out South32 Hermosa. You can check out Mining Minds at miningmindsllc.com. Adios.
Peace.
Mind and mind. Let's dig in. Yeah. From the pit to the plant where the iron sparks fly, we talk grit, talk grind under that big sky. Dino and Grover got the mic turned high, breaking down stories money just can't buy. From the driller to the tech with the night shift eyes, we shine that light where the truth resides. Talk safety, talk struggle, talk pride inside. Man, it's the heartbeat where the people thrive. Mind and minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Come on in minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Yeah, copper
gold, silver, coal, you name it. We break down the process, the blood that sustain it. Presumption flow, the culture, the cause. The ones who made it happen, never counting the loss. We the Joe Rogan of the rock and the dust. Talking tough love, respect, and trust. From the hall road climbs to the mill line hum. We bring the stories where the real ones come. Money minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Money minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. This ain't no suit and tie talk. Nah, this the grease-stained boots on ground law. From hard times to the times they thrive. Minded minds keep the culture alive. We salute the companies that back their crew, the ones that care and the ones that grew. From Nevada to Peru to the odds and minds. We link that world with the mindest lines. Dino and Grover, yeah, they speak that truth. In a room full of miners, they the voice of proof. Plug in, tune up, and follow the signs. It's the sound of the industry. Minded minds. We dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker.